Tonight, the Ministry of Health addresses an influx of COVID-19 cases at a local resort. More COVID cases confirmed today, Thursday. And the SLP charges the government with dropping the ball when it comes to managing the second wave of COVID-19. The details of these stories and more are coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Loveless and Amy Joseph.
Good night. It is Thursday, the 14th of January, 2021. Welcome to the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. I'm Lovely St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. As reports and speculation swirl about COVID-19 outbreaks and violations at a local resort, health and tourism officials have issued a statement following a chorus of concern from the general public. Here is the statement issued by the Ministry of Health through the Government Information Service in its entirety. The Department of Health and Wellness notes the increased number of cases of COVID-19 over the past 2 weeks and the several cases of transmission of COVID-19 identified at a property on island. During the period November 23rd to January 13, a total of 60 cases were documented, including the COVID-19 related death of a 52-year-old UK national. The Department of Health and Wellness has instituted additional stringent and immediate measures to halt the situation while also conducting extensive contact tracing and testing of guests and employees. The initial decisions include the restriction of new guests at the property effective the 14th of January 2021, and that current guests will remain only on property. Employees for quarantine and isolation are to be facilitated at the property to reduce community transmission. The Department of Health and Wellness and the Ministry of Tourism take this matter extremely seriously and have met with the management of the property to identify and correct breaches, remedy the situation, and increase surveillance to ensure compliance to the existing and new protocols. The management of the property has reiterated its commitment and has pledged its cooperation to safeguard the health and safety of guests, staff, and the general public. The Department of Health and Wellness is calling on the entire tourism sector and all other establishments to abide by the protocols to safeguard lives and livelihoods. That was a statement from the Ministry of Health and Wellness through the GIS. We just read that in its entirety. And meanwhile, on Thursday, the Ministry of Health announced more cases of COVID-19.
Today, January 14th, 2021, the Ministry of Health and Wellness received confirmation of 41 new cases of COVID-19. This brings the total number of cases diagnosed in country to date to 543. All of these cases are St. Lucia nationals ranging in age from 5 years to 84 years. They are from Castries, Vieux-Fort, Babonneau, Dennery, Ancillary, Micoud, and Gros Islet districts. These individuals were seen at the community respiratory clinics where they were assessed and tested for COVID-19. They were placed in quarantine by health practitioners pending the receipt of their test results. Arrangements have been made to place these individuals into isolation. At present, the contact tracing team is in the process of undertaking investigations as it relates to those cases. The Ministry of Health and Wellness also reported 2 recoveries for today, January 14th, 2021. There are currently 216 active cases, with one of them requiring critical care, and the other active cases are stable. The Ministry of Health advises the public that the increasing number of confirmed COVID-19 cases which have been recorded recently coincide with the increased risk of spread of the virus during the Christmas season. The recent numbers reflect a reduction in adherence to COVID-19 guidelines, inclusive of close social interactions in the festive season, which increase the risk of exposure to the virus. Today, January 14th, 2021, is exactly 14 days since the celebration of the New Year, which also marks the completion of a full incubation period for the virus, which health officials have been monitoring from the start of the year. The ministry anticipated capturing increased cases of COVID-19 at this point in time as a result of the increased risk of exposure that occurred during the recent New Year's festivities. We cannot afford to reduce our vigilance, as this provides greater opportunity for further spread of the virus. Given our current trend of increased cases being confirmed in country, we again remind everyone that it is necessary to continue practicing the infection prevention and control measures to reduce the spread of the virus. Frequently wash your hands with soap and flowing water. Wear a face mask in public places and ensure that it covers the mouth, nose, and chin. Maintain a 6-foot distance from others wherever possible. Use a bleach solution to sanitize frequently touched surfaces and frequently handled objects. Avoid contact with other people who have flu-like symptoms. If you are experiencing flu-like symptoms, keep away from others and seek medical care at your closest community respiratory clinic for assessment. The Ministry of Health and Wellness will continue providing updates as new information becomes available.
Now, the first deputy leader of the St. Lucia Labour Party is accusing the government of St. Lucia of doing a dismal job when it comes to the handling of the second surge of COVID-19. Dr. Ernest Hilaire said the number of cases in recent weeks have soared to overwhelming heights, and he questions how the leader of a nation and his Ministry of Health could allow this to happen. Dr. Hilaire says the only obvious solution is to oust the UWP administration.
The St. Lucia Labour Party has called the leadership of the United Workers' Party administration into question once again, this time in relation to the management of the resurgence of COVID-19 on Ireland. Dr. Ernest Hilaire said under the watch of the incumbent, the state of the country has spiraled into dangerous levels. Dr. Hilaire said there were so many solutions to the existing problems that the government failed to execute properly, and so he asked how could the island be allowed to deteriorate in this manner.
This government has handled this COVID-19 pandemic disastrously. It has failed to put the health and well-being of the people of St. Lucia first and foremost. As St. Lucia Labour Party will put you first. We need the government to be accountable. We need the government to care. Instead, the government seems lost. There seems to be no energy or capability to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic.
Dr. Hilaire further went on to highlight the death of a non-national on Ireland on the 9th of January and had these questions to ask.
This raises some very serious questions. Why did it take so many days for St. Lucians to be informed of this death from COVID? Did the visitor arrive in St. Lucia already suffering with the effects of COVID-19? Did the visitor present a negative COVID test result? As the visitor was not in care at the time of his death, was the result where he stayed respecting and implementing approved COVID-19 protocols? Is it true that there has been an outbreak of COVID at that same resort? Do we have evidence of the UK strain of the COVID-19 virus in St. Lucia? What action will be undertaken by the CMO and Minister of Health to address this very worrying situation?
The SLP First Deputy said, not only is the Prime Minister exhibiting poor management of the COVID-19 situation, he said the ministers responsible for steering the country through the pandemic is doing a questionable job as well.
On December 17th, 2020, on the margins of a Senate meeting, the Minister of Health, Honorable Mary Isaac, who has responsibilities to issue orders and regulations, stated that the government had the COVID-19 pandemic under control. 1 month later, St. Lucia is experiencing its worst days of the COVID-19 pandemic. We have seen about 230 cases from December 11th to January 13th, with a pandemic high of 43 cases on January 9th. Yet, amidst all this, it appears that our protocols have expired since January 11th.
Dr. Hille said it is becoming clearer with each passing day that the only immediate solution is the removal of the United Workers' Party from the government of St. Lucia. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Rochelle Gonzalez.
On Friday, the 8th of January, Hot 7 TV aired a report which revealed that award-winning British actor Michael Sheen was in St. Lucia with his family not for holiday purposes, but because he was sent to the island to quarantine from the United Kingdom to gain entry to the United States. On at least 2 talk shows, Sheen revealed that he was headed to the U.S. to film a new project. However, he was told that he could not travel to the U.S. from the U.K. He stated that he was given a list of countries where he could go to quarantine, and St. Lucia was the best option. With this news being broadcast, the chairman of the St. Lucia Labour Party, Moses Jabatis, has expressed concerns.
Clearly, it is trouble. If it is that our government is not ready to be stringent with the procedures and the protocols, especially in relation to countries that are having major spikes in COVID-19 deaths. And look at what just happened in St. Lucia. If the government does not put its act together, and you heard what Dr. Hille said a while ago, Honorable Dr. Ernest Hille, about our healthcare system and the inadequacies in our healthcare system. And if the government does not put its act together, we can well see a situation, regrettably, where we have further community spread and our people will be further endangered.
The SLP chairman says this highlights a one-sided blame game being played by the government.
It is easy to understand why there is this perception that St. Lucia, this perception by some people that St. Lucia may be some kind of COVID-19 dumping ground or quarantine island, because the Prime Minister's approach to the COVID-19 pandemic, where St. Lucians are concerned, is to blame St. Lucians for everything negative in relation to COVID-19. When there was a spike, it was the Labour Party. It was backdoor, it was St. Lucian fishers. When things were good, it was the government doing good things. Right now, it is the St. Lucians during Christmas time, and it is never the others where the evidence coming out from the government itself indicates that around some hotels, for example, you have a kind of nucleus of concerns in relation to COVID-19.
Hot 7 TV sought answers from the St. Lucia Tourism Authority about whether St. Lucia is designated a quarantine state, and the answer was no. Rather, the SLTA says the U.S. is recommending that travelers from the U.K. quarantine for 14 days before coming to the U.S., and that there are about 14 countries on the U.S.'s recommended list. For these travelers in transit, they are not allowed to leave their hotel rooms while in 14-day quarantine. This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Still to come, the dog life video featuring prop guns lands the artiste in hot water.